Welcome to the Etheric podcast, or we're thinking of a name. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about transmutation.
Yep. So what is transmutation?
So transmutation is extremely important, and this is kind of going off of the last podcast as to what it is it takes to elevate. So transmutation, you see it in ancient Egypt depicted often with that stance. I will have a graphic for this podcast that shows the stance, but basically it's like the two arms out, one up, one down, and it's a very palm-oriented thing. And it represents the concept of taking dark energy and using your body to actually purify that energy and then return that energy to the soul that the energy was taken from. So this can be used in a variety of situations. It is oftentimes called exorcism. And exorcism sounds really dark and scary because it's kind of like, if you think of it as an exorcism, you're thinking of it as like basically having a wrestling match with a demon, which is why a lot of these things fail. So transmutation can also be taking dense energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be dark energy, and transmuting it. I always think of it as turning something into gold. We often hear the terms alchemy is turning something into gold. Well, that's actually a very metaphysical term. So you want the golden energy. So I often think of transmuting as taking the dark energy from the left side of the body and then returning it out through the right side of the body. And it can be pretty intense, and some dark energy is a lot to hold within yourself. But basically, it's just a way to absolve your soul or somebody else's soul of negativity. So it's a very mental process, and it's very important. It's actually one of the most important things that's going on right now. So you can, in fact, help. I've had somebody do this before. I was talking to somebody, and she took the left palm of my hand, and I felt like she sucked like my bad energy right out of me. I mean, this was a Tibetan Buddhist who did this, and she did it so quickly. Yeah, so if you actually have physical contact with the person, I do believe it could be quicker and more powerful, but you don't actually have to, because in the etheric realm, we're all connected anyway. Like, it's only the 3D do we have like this illusion of separatism. So it's just kind of like, I've actually seen it in real time. So it's very intention-based. And like I said, it does go back to ancient Egypt. And oftentimes you'll see humans depicted doing it. You'll see cat-headed people, or the Lorrainians, depicted doing that. And that's because the concept of the Lorrainian, or Bast, we know Bast is one of the biggest like Egyptian gods. They are experts at transmutation. That's why cats, I mean, if you ever owned a cat will oftentimes sit on your chest or on your collarbone, or even on your lap, and you will start to actually feel calmer for this reason, because they are actually transmuting as well. That's why they're such popular pets, and that's why they are so well loved and received. And they're extremely intelligent too. So the whole concept of the feline in ancient Egypt is all about transmutation.
Yeah, right.
So that's why some people are right. So that's why some people are considered really, really good healers, because healing is basically taking. If you're filled with dense energy, you can transmute that yourself. You can transmute it for somebody else. Sometimes other people take your energy. They use it. And we were talking about that. And if that person is using your energy, typically what they're doing is they're irritating you or making you so miserable to the point where you're producing dark energy. Like, we're not supposed to be doing that. We're light-sided people. So it's just kind of like, to have that happen, that's why we often have people low-key making us miserable on a daily basis. And I'm talking in such a subverted, subconscious way. Like, you know, some people have no bad intentions, but they might lash out at you. That won't necessarily drain you. That actually won't. I'm talking about things that are like a daily pattern, or maybe just like ways, like you interact with somebody and you just feel worse.
Yeah.
Like genuinely worse, like you've been almost violated. It's called a psychic attack. typically that person, what they're doing in the etheric or the astral is taking your energy, pissing you off, making you hurt yourself mentally and emotionally, and then siphoning out that energy to use for themselves. So the concept of transmutation is taking that energy from that person and transferring it back to the sender. I call it energy retrieval, and it's a very successful thing. It's a very successful method, and it has to be done with intention. So it's very important. It's very important in terms of healing and in terms of making other people who are in pain feel better.
Yep.
Ultimately, though, the person that you're sending that energy back to has to maintain that. But we can get into that another time. So yeah, that's what a lot of ancient Egyptian paintings are depicting as transmutation, alchemy.
Yeah, right.
It's very alchemy.
Wow.
Yep, and your energy should be golden. There are different types of energies. Purple is really good. It's like an all-knowing, but the gold represents your purified energy. So yeah, that's why gold is so appealing. And we keep thinking it's physical gold, but physical gold is fine. But it's a metaphor for how your energy should be at all times. You should be golden. That's why they say you're golden or you're glittering gold. A lot of these sayings, that this is where language comes in. Language actually gives away a lot of secrets, or a lot of occultic secrets. So that's my thing about transmutation. I can eventually work up to exactly what it is you can do to transmute, but I'll save that for another time. Typically, you can just write it down. Like if you're feeling pretty shitty one day, you can just like write transmute energy or text it to yourself, transmute energy with intention, and that can actually help heal yourself. That's actually a really simple way to do it, because when you write it on paper or you like write it online or something, you're sending that message into the astral realm to basically vibrate and send the message over and over again.
And that works, in your opinion? You've actually seen results from that?
Oh yeah.
Yep,
I've elevated very quickly doing this. I mean, I was at a point where, so this is a good segue. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I have been doing. So I got to a point about maybe 5 or 6 years ago where I sort of lost my creativity. I mean, I was even telling you that I sort of stopped drawing altogether. And I did that because I started to pursue what was considered to be the ideal concept of success. And that's working really, really hard, doing something you don't necessarily want to do to start at the bottom to work your way up to the top, which is just it's a bunch of bullshit. And I can get into why that is in a little bit. So, I went from having these aspirations to doing comic books or drawing, playing video games, or just going out and doing stuff that I liked. I threw all that away and started pursuing this scientific path. And that was totally fine at first because I used to do illustrations to teach myself how to do it. And then when I actually got into the field, I stopped doing that. So instead of doing the drawings, instead of doing the research, I just started committing really hard to working super hard, doing basically menial labor jobs to work my way up to the top. So stuff like that will actually start to go against the will of the soul. So I know that we're told that we have to do that, but if we do too many things, way too many things that we really don't like, and we throw away things to balance that we actually do like, you will eventually degrade yourself to the point where we'll go back to the Walking Dead. So I was very fortunate recently that I was in a situation where I started to wake up via the affirmations, and I realized I stopped doing everything that I love to do. I eventually started drawing here and there, and I'm still getting back into that. But basically, the transmutation process has allowed me to start to enjoy life again. So by doing the transmutations over and over again with myself, and including with other people that I really care about, I have been able to feel more alive and feel more capable of accomplishing what I want to accomplish. I've been able to do a lot of research and get a lot of research design down in a rather short span of time. with the transmutations, because I wasn't sitting there festering in my own hate, self-loathing, and disinterest and apathy. Instead, I acknowledged all those emotions, released them, and transmuted them. It's a constant purification process. So yes, just by virtue of the fact that I am a lot more intelligent, creative, and happier, and feel more sure of myself alone, really does speak to the power of transmutation. We're told we have to take a bunch of therapy sessions. I have gone to therapy before, and it just didn't really work. And they're trying to say that it takes years and years and years to undo traumas, even extreme traumas. That's just a way to waste your time. I know that might sound very, very controversial, especially to people who've suffered a lot. I've actually had a lot of problems. Like, I've actually not had the perfect life. Like, I've been bullied my whole life, and I'm not going to get into the gross details about that. But basically, this transmutation process has allowed me to release a lot of that in only a couple of months. And genuinely release all of that to make myself more confident, happier, more sturdy, independent, and capable. And it even upped my salary and everything. Like, it's just, you start to vibe higher and higher and higher, and you start to find out who you really are through transmutation. Instead of listening to what other people have to say to you to get under your skin, you transmute that. You say, no, I'm going to stick to my conviction. How am I going to stick to my conviction? By transmuting out this energy, by transmuting out the dark energy that's holding me back into basically an astral cage. So it has made me a lot more confident, and has made me a lot more capable of dealing with life. And it's really, really useful. So it's, you can do it with intent. I would definitely write it down. Write down your intention. Write down what you plan on transmuting. Transmute energy. Transmute energy from, so-and-so back to sender. And really work on that. You can listen to certain mantras while you do it. You can move around while you do it. The intention has to be pure. So if you want to do a good transmutation, you have to go in with purity. You have to go in with the intention that this is to help me. This is to help myself. This is to help maybe even somebody else who needs it, with, their consent, of course. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But you want to go in with this intention of purifying out the darkness. You want to go in with this concept of going in with positivity and with the mindset of bliss and happiness. And it will work. It doesn't sound like it will work. But it certainly does. Do not, if you're feeling bad, like if you're feeling down, do not swallow that emotion. Do not sit there and say, I'm going to swallow it and just be happy. That's actually really one way to hurt yourself severely. What you do is you release that emotion, write it down, acknowledge it verbally. I'm feeling like not too happy because of such and such. Express it. Express it to somebody. Express it to the air. But do not sit on that emotion. So emotions should be expressed. And then when they're expressed, they're released. And then the energy can be transmuted. You can actually just say transmute. You can write down transmute. Visualize the darkness, or visualize the red energy, which is the dense energy, going from the left palm out out of the right palm, and just imagine purify, imagine gold. Your mind is extremely powerful, contrary to what we've been taught, and these thoughts that you repeat over and over again will help you. And affirmations definitely help with that. You will see more results with that. So yes, I think that one of the worst things that we've ever been brainwashed into thinking is that we have to swallow our emotions. That is a huge problem. So yeah, I mean, every time I'm upset about something, I just express it. Every time I'm sad about something, I just cry. Like, you have to. Do it in private if you have to, but like, don't swallow it. That's just, yeah. You don't want to tear yourself up. Well, because the soul is very feeling based, and your brain and the feelings sometimes contradict each other. Like, I'll be, for the most part, I'm actually really happy and calm now. Like, I'm in a state of peace. But then if I overthink, it won't necessarily disrupt that bodily feeling or that soul feeling of peace, but the overthinking will contradict that. Like, you'll be like, oh, I'm feeling really good, but did I mess up? Like, did I do this, that, or that wrong? It's just like, why are you contradicting feeling peaceful? So that's one thing that we can get into at some point, is the concept too of overthinking and how the brain will interfere with your feelings. Oftentimes it will contradict your feelings. You may feel, this is another huge thing, and I know there's such thing as social etiquette, civility, and all that, but it's been taken to an extreme that's actually really obnoxious. If you really don't feel like doing something, just don't do it. If you really want to do something, do it. And like I said, our intentions are pure. We're not, not advising to do anything bad or harmful. If you want to go and sit off on your own and draw when everybody else wants you to go do something else, just go off and sit off in your own and draw.
Yep.
And, it's like, if you don't feel like talking one day, don't talk. It's like that. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, I totally understand it. I mean, I may totally want to, talk to somebody. I may totally want to do something with somebody. If they don't want to, I don't want to either. And that same respect should be given back. So it's like we've been conditioned to think that we have to constantly go against what it is we want to do. When in reality, what it is we want to do is not even a bad thing. Typically, it's a very mundane, or not even mundane, it's just a very simple thing.
Yeah.
So it's like we're always in a constant state of being made to do things we don't want to do. So this is just, as well.
You there?
Oh, my connection just went off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where we lose a lot of our mojo.
Yep.
Is being bogged down in complicated situations. So, yeah, transmutation is basically the way to keep yourself mentally and physically as healthy as possible. If you can upgrade the subconscious mind and you can transmute enough, you will become so, on a soul, mental, and emotional level, so healthy that then the body comes kind of like you have to take care of your soul and your mind before focusing too hard on the body. You definitely have to eat, drink, do all that good stuff. If you want to fast, know how to do it. I went through a period recently with the waking up where I simply wasn't really eating. And it wasn't, if you're going to fast, you have to do it with intention. You can't just neglect yourself. So that caused some problems. So it's just kind of like, take care of the soul, take care of the mind, take care of your feelings. And then as you take care of your body, you're going to notice a huge bunch of bodily changes. Like you'll have more energy. You'll feel like you're floating. You feel like you can run around. You feel like you have a lot of energy. So taking care of your mind and your soul is priority. And one of the ways to do that is via affirmations, transmutation, and choosing yourself when it's appropriate, when it wouldn't do any harm to anyone else. I feel like we're always locked into a state of feeling like we have to make somebody else feel happy, and that's totally sincere and that's totally fine. But sometimes they want us to, like, just, I don't know, it's like it kind of gets ridiculous when it gets to the point where it's like you are making somebody feel bad simply by wanting to do your own thing here and there. So it's just kind of like, yeah, stuff like that. But I won't get too bogged down in that. Definitely take care of yourself and your feelings, because you just can't help anybody else if you don't do that.
Yeah, that's right. You can't look after
people
someone else or love someone else, unless you can first look after yourself and love yourself.
Exactly. You have to love yourself. I mean, you genuinely do. It's nice to have support. It's nice to know there are people who believe in you and are out there for you. I mean, that's just golden, in my opinion. But nothing can change unless you take care of yourself. I've been sort of conditioned to believe that taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself in situations means you're selfish. But it's just that, so that's like,
That's a psyop.
That's a huge psyop, because you can't help anybody if your frequency is so low that you're basically, as I like to use this term, the Walking Dead. If you're basically the Walking Dead, how are you going to help anybody?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a psyop. So any thoughts on that? Or we can get into, you wanted to talk about sexual energy and sexual transmutation, but if you have anything to say about dark stuff I just talked about.
One of the points you made, one of the points you made I found really interesting was where you basically just said about identifying the energy first, and that's the key step, is to identify it. Before you can even transmute it, you've got to realize it's there, and you've got to be aware of it, you know? Like, that's the very first step to realizing, okay, I've got this energy on board, now I need to transmute it. An example of that, yesterday, I just woke up in a bad mood, and I can't explain it, but I was just not right. And I was yelling at the kids, and I was just like, what is going on? I've got this rage, this chaotic just energy flowing through me. I need to get rid of this. I need a outlet for this, because it's gonna get bad otherwise. Like, I could just see it going bad as the day went on, and I wasn't improving. So I said, right, I'm going out to the gym, and I'm just going to smash it for an hour straight. I was bench pressing like heavier than I'd ever had in like weeks, and it felt amazing. And I realized at that moment I was transmuting that anger and intense emotion I was feeling into pushing weights, and it felt amazing, and it allowed me to go that much harder. So that's a really helpful example you can use in your day-to-day life, and it works with anxiety, more kind of agitated, chaotic sort of energy. It works better for, I find. Your sort of slow, depressed energy is still good for energy transmutation through movement and using your body. It seems to work best with those sort of really fueled emotions, and it's a way you can transmute them into something positive and get something out of it, where otherwise you'd have been spending a day feeling like shit, you know. So it's always there's always a way you can transmute energy, because everything is energy, and it's always changing forms all around us. You know, my voice, for example, is traveling into my microphone as one type of energy, a vibration frequency. Then it's becoming a digital one, going over the internet and going into your ears, you know, and then it's going back into frequency energy. So energy, that's just one example. The energy exchange is just happening constantly around us, and emotions are an energy. And when you was talking about how important it is to express that, if you ever meet anyone who's an energy reader or can actually see energy, and there are people out there, I've met one myself, who could literally see the emotional energy attached to my body that I was carrying around with me as literal energetic baggage of all that repressed emotion. And he read it perfectly as what that emotion was, the event that caused it. Like, this guy was just on point, eh? He read me like a book because he could read my energetic signature.
He could read your mind. You were telling him everything. That's the reason.
Well, he described it as being able to be in touch with the energetic body.
Yeah, he was talking to your soul.
Yeah.
He was talking. He wasn't talking to your 3D. He was over what you look like to him. I've done this. This is what I do. I'm the same way. Like in person, if I meet some in person, he was literally. You were maybe saying one thing, but he was reading a totally different thing. He was reading actually what it is you were thinking, and that's crazy. So what did he say?
Well, I won't go into it here because it was a private session, and he
Okay, yeah.
real life stuff. Like he could see it, and could see the things in my life that were causing it. Like amazing ability, but that's how it is an energy in that realm has more power to it. It is everything in that realm. So emotional energy, yeah, it needs to be transmuted. And it can always be transmuted from, I believe, a negative can always become a positive. It's just knowing how to use it and how to work with it, what it needs, what it's lacking.
Yep.
So
I just got excited for a second.
into,
Sorry, go on.
You're right. You want to? What were you excited about?
I'm excited because basically you have to envision yourself, maybe your soul or some sort of soul body. Imagine the dark energy going from one side of your palm outside to gold, and just imagine that via meditation. Or I use mantras because it helps focus my mind. And I'll show some graphics. I will show some graphics that you should definitely focus on. That will be on the thumbnail, and maybe I'll just link to some. It's almost like you have to put the focus onto that intent and then just imagine it until you see that dark energy stopping. I'll draw it out. It's hard to explain. But when you see it, it will make sense. What were you saying? I totally just like interrupted
that
you.
makes
Sorry.
me think about. No, you're right. That was really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I was going to talk about visualization actually because it's just this really powerful tool that we've got that even though it seems bullshit to think it in our terms, modern science can't explain it, but this kind of next level quantum spiritual science explains it very simply. But our ability to visualize things actually powers us up in the astral realm.
Yep.
It basically is real in a weird sense because I've always thought this, that our brain is actually local to another dimension.
Yep.
This physical dimension we're in now can't operate with a consciousness at the same time, you know what I mean? I think that we're actually interacting with this reality from outside of it to an extent. Our brains are. And then that is connected obviously to the layers of spiritual form across dimensions that are also intact and always active in different forms. Anyway, where I was going was... Yeah, where I was going with this though. So, sexual transmutation. Basically, and as I was saying, that everything is a form of energy. And this may apply more to men than women, but it's all very relevant. But it got me thinking about potential energy, or energy that hasn't existed yet. And I feel like that is the true power behind the sexual energy, is the potential, because the male and female bodies interlink essentially to create new life. And that new baby person has infinite potential in their life. So the power of the sexual energy is potential, I believe. That's what you're transmuting. And so in relevance to that, you may have heard of No Nut November and not really understood the concepts behind it. Essentially, you just don't ejaculate for a month of November. People think
I've heard of that one.
I don't know what but it's basically based on real esoteric science and philosophy going back thousands of years to many different cultures where they understood the power and the function of sexual energy and just how much we waste it as a society. And we've been designed to just unleash it in every direction on every person, and our society is geared towards sexual gratification and sexual exploitation words. And that's no coincidence. Like there's a good reason why porn is free, and why, you know, I reckon 70, 80, 90% of the internet is comprised of porn. I don't know if it's actually that much, but it wouldn't surprise me. Like, why is this a thing? And if it's free, then you're the product.
Currency. You're the product. Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah.
So keep that in mind with multiple things, and I'm not just talking about internet porn. Everything that's free, keep in mind why it's free, because it might be that you're the one who's actually getting done out by it, not it. Think about free-to-air television and what's on there, free-to-play video games, free-to-play anything for that matter. Anything where they know they can hit the most amount of people with it for the lowest price. And that's where you'll realize where all the messaging is. Anyway, getting off topic, sexual energy. So how is it used in the body, and how can we retain it? During a sexual intercourse, as you build up pleasure and the pressure mounts of this energy, you don't expel it, but instead you visualize it traveling up your spine, and that's a use of the visualization we talked about earlier. And essentially you ease back down and then rise back up again, but again, you don't come, you just keep that energy at bay, and then visualize yourself transmuting it up your spine as the Kundalini.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, that's how they describe using it. So, what's the main thing that you think about with Mahatma Gandhi and Jeffrey Epstein? What connects those two?
Weren't they like? Weren't they? No, I mean, we know Epstein was like this like crazy like friggin' pedophile trafficker dude, but wasn't Gandhi kind of like a sleaze? I don't know.
Yeah. It basically, what happened was he was doing experiments with sexual transmutation, according to a really good Robert Sepia video. Sepia, I think he's called. He's worth watching on YouTube. He has a video called The Turkish Bathhouses, and it kind of starts off at talking about lots of these different concepts, and it's definitely worth a watch. But basically, his theory is that, because, you know, we all know Gandhi was this amazingly peaceful dude, supposedly really amazing guy. And then you hear the story about how he used to sleep with young women, like young as in 12-year-olds.
Underage.
And you're like, whoa,
no.
okay.
No.
Maybe he's not such a great guy.
No.
But this video posits, and again, it's just a theory, that he was actually trying to turn himself on, but keep putting that energy back into his body. So he never acted on it, but he used them as a way of sexually pleasing himself without ever acting on it, and then transmuting that energy back into his body. And apparently those Turkish bathhouses that the Epstein temple's modeled on, is apparently they used to use those for a similar purpose. And this was done in multiple cultures across Asia and Europe and the Middle East. So they would basically have beautiful women in the spas with them, and then just try and get as close as they could without coming. And that's what they would do, and that's how they use them. And they were basically using sexual energy and recycling it, transmuting it through their bodies. And if you want to see an example of a massive amount of potential that was potentially created by sexual energy, look at none other than Nikola Tesla, who never once had sex in his life. we're led to believe. He was a virgin, died a virgin.
Yep.
And then look at the amazing amount of just mind-blowing inventions that guy came up with during his existence on this earth. Like, they thought he was an alien. They thought he was a Tartarian. Could be either of those. Who really knows? But
He probably was a Tartarian.
yeah, yeah. Or was he just a normal dude who never nutted?
Well, the thing is that the concept of humans, like the soulful humans, are far from ordinary. So if that we got into how powerful the soul actually is. So in terms of soulful humans, he definitely was one, and he did do a lot. He did do a hell of a lot, and he didn't get with anybody. I mean, I could just say from my experience that I've had a couple of boyfriends and nothing really happened, and they were really short term. And I've been able to come up with a lot of research designs that I'm just getting into again now, because like I said, my creativity was quashed. But I've made huge strides mentally in terms of research and development and inventing that I'm just really getting into again. And there is probably something to it. I'm not specifically doing the Kundalini thing, but I'm doing a whole bunch of affirmations and stuff, and I've been doing particularly well not, like, being with anyone, like, sexually, so, not that I'm against it. Like, what we're trying to say is that it's not, like, a bad thing, it's just there probably is something to transmuting that energy, because that energy is extremely powerful. Because at its peak, it is basically peak love frequency. And like I said, yep. Love energy is the most powerful energy. So if you can transmute that, basically if you can take that energy and put it into something else, then you're going to have like huge results in that other thing you're doing. Instead of, like you said, focusing on internet porn and stuff like that, or chasing people who don't give a shit about you and whatever.
Yeah.
There is something to it. I mean, but yeah, I do believe there is something to it. That energy is extremely powerful, and there's a reason why they want us to throw it all over the place, like you said. There's a reason why, like, all these ads have sex in them. There's a reason why sex appeal is, like, really shoved down our throats all the time. It's for something. It's to rob us of something, like you said.
Well, think of it this way, and yeah, like you said, make no mistake, I'm definitely not saying don't ever have sex or cum or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. It's basically just an awareness of the energy and how powerful it is, and just don't waste it on any old person.
Right.
Just, the whole Christian mentality where you can't lay with them until you're married, that's there for a reason. Like, it's not actually a bad concept, and it's been demonized and laughed at for years. But when you actually understand the raw potency of this energy and how important it really is, you start to understand a lot of those old concepts weren't actually bad concepts at all, and they weren't designed to rob us of fun and pleasure at all. It was more about controlling our energy and what we did with it, making sure it was going to the right places. So I'm not even saying don't look at porn ever again, but understand that if you bust a nut to porn, the only one losing out is you. So it's just about being aware of your energy and where you're putting it. And that is literally some of the most powerful energy we have. So it's just an awareness, like I was saying, being aware of your own energy and where you're putting it and where you're giving it and not getting it back. Finding exchanges in your life where the energy is flowing but not flowing back. Cut them out and focus on the reciprocal energy of giving and giving back. I think that's really important right now.
Yeah, just know where to focus your energy. That's what it comes down to. Basically, just, you can put it into your passions, put it into your projects, and, make sure that, like, whoever you're with really means something to you. I feel like the whole concept of running around and sleeping around has been glorified, for men especially. And it's just, all that's doing is turning them into, like, they're taking away a lot of potential. But yeah, the energy is very powerful. I mean, how you use your energy is really important. We've been sort of we've been brainwashed into thinking that if you're putting your energy into this and that, it's not a big deal. When you become more psychically aware, you realize that every bit of energy that you're using is very important, and you can become drained super quick. Energy drain to me used to always feel like I just felt tired. I felt kind of like sick, or it's hard to explain, like hollow. Now energy drain to me, I don't get drained. Rather, I use my energy. So I can feel what that feels like, and all it does is make me tired. Yeah, it makes me tired, like I just want to go to sleep.
That's a key difference right there, isn't it? I think our modern world is designed to drain us instead of let us burn our own energy out. And there's a key difference there. And I know exactly what you mean. There's a difference in the feeling between both of those, being drained and just being tired. Like,
you're right. Yeah, drained, because drained is an assault. Tired is like, okay, yeah, I did this. I put my energy into this. I chose to put my energy into this, and now I'm tired. But yeah, the drain is an assault. Make no mistake, you're being assaulted when somebody takes your energy. One of the scariest things about existence here, in this plane of existence, is not acknowledging the astral realm and just not realizing how much your astral body is being abused. By, and there's this concept, everybody's great and everybody's good. No, not everybody's good and not everybody's great. Not everybody's soulful. I hate to, that's one of the biggest things that triggers people when I talk to them. Like, they're like, oh no, everybody's like great and everybody has a soul and everybody has, I'm not saying that they can't develop a conscience. Some people can, but it's like, no, there are people out there who are taking your energy.
Yeah.
They're actually pissing you off and making you miserable, and they could be even people that you care about. So, I mean, actually, the more you care about somebody who's doing that to you, the worse it is for you, because then they have so much power over you. There's an attachment there. But that's that's a very difficult subject to talk about, and I feel like it has to be disseminated. But until, the collective consciousness wakes up a little bit more and more people are receptive to it, I think I'll just wait a little bit longer on that one. But we are waking up for the most part. But when you walk into a room and there's somebody there and you immediately start to feel drained, don't think that that's not actually going on. I mean, what we do in the shadows, that Taika Waititi, he's so funny, makes that show. He has the Colin Robinson, and how he just literally sucks the energy out of it. Like they'll be sitting there, and when they get out, he'll piss them off on purpose just to suck their energy out, and they're just like all drained. That's actually like not anything short of disclosure. Like that's and what they're showing is what that drain looks like in the astral, and it literally looks like it's called looshing. When somebody like mashes you up and then they suck it out. And when you wake up, this is one of the things, that's why people think I'm nuts. But when I woke up in astral, I actually saw what that looked like, and it is fucking horrifying. It looks just like that, like the way it gets all euphoric and it sucks it out. Like, that's what it looks like. It's like, and I'm telling you, it's a big problem. Yeah, when I first saw that, I know what this sounds like to people who, are really 3D locked or aren't really open to this concept. I know it sounds absolutely insane, but the looshing is one of the most terrifying things. When I started to do the affirmations and I woke up in the astral, I would see these soulless people getting super, super, like that. You could see the energy being sucked out. You could see them getting super high off of it. And to the 3D locked mind, that just looks like a person smiling at you. But when you wake up in astral, you actually see the assault. And so when you walk into a room and you feel drained by somebody, that's actually happening. They make it seem like it's all mental on your part. And in a way it is. Because you're in a way, I don't know, we're just in a state of drunkenness in the astral realm, so we consent to stuff. So it's just kind of like when you wake up in the astral realm, when you wake up your psychic senses, you immediately gain that power that says, no, don't do that. So looshing and energy drain's a real thing. It really happens. It is other people doing it to you, and it is the true disease. Because when that keeps happening to you, you're having your energy that belongs to you, a sovereign being used like a drug. I can't even make this up. I would never want to make this up, and I did not want this to be a true thing. So, yeah, that's where transmutation comes in. So they suck your energy out, and you take that back. That's what you do. You say, no,
That's what it's
no
about.
more of that. Yeah, because typically the looshing's going to happen when you're in a state of distress. That's why there's a lot of negativity. That's why we're mostly. I mean, I've heard of celebrities getting threatened by going on air and saying we have to have more positive. We have to have more positive news, or we have to have more positive things that express positivity or stuff like that. It's because the negativity, fear mongering, stress, that keeps you in a very low vibrational state, and that's just perfect for that. So it's just kind of like, yeah, and I've gotten super drained. Like I'd be like in a room, and then like back before I was waking up to this, and I would just feel horrible for no reason.
Try watching like CNN for half an hour once you've woken up. You won't be able to do it. It'll just destroy you. You realize your energy just dropping through the floor watching that shit. I can't stand it. It's non-stop 24/7 fear porn. Like, there's different types of porn too, and it's not just porn. There's fear porn, which is hacking your brain, lowering your vibration, and just turning you into a loosh machine. And that's just 24.
We're basically loosh machines. Yeah.
That's how they've controlled everyone.
The subject of loosh. I can't believe I got onto that subject in this podcast, but it has to be disseminated.
Oh yeah, and if you don't talk about things, you give them power. Like, this is why we're doing this. We're uncovering the darkness and the truth.
Yeah, because that's why all these sages or all these people who are highly enlightened focus so hard on themselves, and they focus every day to stay in an elevated state, because they don't want their energy being taken. Because energy is, we've seen the movie The Matrix that shows how they use the people as batteries to power the Matrix. That movie was made in 99, and it's been around that long, and it's just kind of like, that's basically what the concept of looshing is using you as a battery. So it's just kind of like, yeah, it's some real stuff. I mean, I just think that feeling terrible all the time has been normalized to the point where that's considered sanity. It's considered saying, oh, you're not feeling good, you feel terrible. Oh, that's good that you're just complaining and horribly unhappy all the time. And I'm not talking about releasing energy or venting. I'm talking about being in a perpetual state of not being happy with yourself. And that's been considered the norm. And then when you start laughing or becoming super bubbly and super open and super caring and super elevated in that way, then you're called crazy or weird. I mean, that has to stop. I mean, this is why I'm speaking out against all of that, because it's not normal to be miserable all the time. And I'm not saying that somebody who's miserable all the time is abnormal, but one should not think that that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, where our society has literally been designed to turn us into a loosh harvest for the soulless. So we'll probably get more into that next time, who the soulless are, what their role is, and yes, people exist without a soul. That's basically what we're saying. In a nutshell.
We have to get into that, yeah. In a nutshell, we will get into that into another podcast. This is one of the biggest things I've faced resistance with, is this concept, because a lot of soulful people don't want to believe that there are people like this. But the concept of a narcissist or a psychopath, like a true narcissist and a true psychopath, it seems like they're always in a state of making you stay on. You feel like you're walking on eggshells. That's like a very common trait of the soulless. And like I said, they get you on the subconscious mind. They don't get you necessarily in the third dimension. But we will get into that in another podcast. But yeah, long story short, the transmutation's great. It's a good way to express yourself. It's a good way to transmute bad energy and make yourself feel happier quicker, and not after years and years and years and you still feel miserable. It's love frequency and sexual energy is really powerful, and really should, if you want the best out of life, make good use of it, share it with the right people, or transmute it into something you really care about, because it's a very powerful frequency. Your energy is important. It's the most important thing. We are energy. We're not bodies with energy. We're energy with bodies. So protecting that energy is very important. And there are things being done outside your conscious awareness. And this is why it's good to get into meditation and affirmations so that you can protect that. And that's basically the long and short of what this podcast is. We will eventually have to delve into what is a soulless being and what is dark energy. But we'll get there. So if you have anything else to talk about, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'm good. So I'm good to listen, or I'm good to end. It's up to you.
Yeah. I'm right to end.
All right. So yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.
All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.